Think of the people you interact with every day. Would you want to spend a day in a canoe with them? Hi, I'm Nathan Mercero, CEO of Planning Alternatives. We're a disruptive brand in the financial planning space with a point of view that true wealth has nothing to do with money. Growing up in a small town in Canada, I experienced examples of families with money and without. It started me on this journey of understanding wealth and the idea that spending a day in a canoe with someone could be one of the best investments you could make. Join me as I sit down with leaders, entrepreneurs, creatives, rule breakers, and friends to discover their perspective of true wealth. And maybe you'll start to shift yours. Well, I'm excited today to be joined by Fran Maier. Fran is a celebrated serial entrepreneur, best known as the co-founder and first GM of Match.com, founder of Trustee and BabyQuip. Fran, welcome to Day in a Canoe. Thanks for taking time to share your story with listeners.
Thank you, Nathan. Happy to be here.
So I'm sure you get a lot of curiosity questions about Match.com.
Oh, gosh.
What did you create, and did you know what you were creating when you were doing that?
Well, the founder, Gary Kremen, said, we're bringing love to the planet. We were creating a new way, a needed way for people to find their partners, lovers, what have you. It was pretty clear when I joined up in late 1994. So by the way, this is mostly people were coming onto the internet via dial-up. That meant that there weren't photos and pictures, and it wasn't called the apps. They weren't called the dating apps. It was very, very different. And the predominant way, other than meeting in the wild, was newspaper personals, which were 900 numbers. Okay, so people had to dial a 900 number, and they were charged how long they stayed on the phone. And of course, the ads were very cryptic with all kinds of abbreviations, WSM for LTR or what have you. And that was kind of broken. And I think what I created with Match was a whole category, now called online dating. I think Match is still the predominant or Match group. They own Tinder and OkCupid, and Match.com is still and has always been the category leader. And I think what I feel really proud about is, and despite all the people complaining about dating on the apps right now, so many people found their partner. I don't know the divorce stats. I'm curious about it. Somebody should do the research. But from the very get-go, we saw, and this again, 1995, we launched in May of 95, that people were really trying to find somebody, and they needed some help in finding someone who not only they were attracted to, but had the same perspective on having children or religion or what have you. And it was pretty amazing. I mean, I remember early feedback was from a number of people who said something along the lines of, I'm not going to settle now. I'm really going to find my right person, my right match. And that was a big change, and it changed everything. And I'm now divorced, and I use the apps, and I use the apps because I'm trying to find, the right person or go on a date or whatever. But also I use the apps because I'm curious to see how they've evolved. And of course, they've evolved in a lot of different ways.
Well, the last 30 years has seen a massive
30 years.
transformation. Yeah,
30
it's amazing.
years. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Amazing. But I'm curious what your point of view is on the hunger and interest for people to have connection and the intersection of technology. So where does technology facilitate that connection, but where is the limit of technology at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, I think what the apps have done is level playing field to a certain degree and help you find probably people more like you or more compatible with you. So Match has been blamed, or I've been blamed about increasing polarization or income inequality. Maybe people were a little bit more fluid with their political choices. I mean, my ex-husband was a Republican, so what can I say? And I met him in the wild. That maybe income, college-age people or college-educated people are more likely to date other college-educated people. I can see that happen. Would it have happened anyway? Very of course. It's hard to say what the world would have been like without it, and in terms of, I think the biggest complaint that I think is really valuable is it's kind of transactional, especially when the apps put so much more focus on physical appearance and so on. I do think as people mature, they start putting less emphasis on that and more on, let's just go on the date. And that's where the technology can't come in, right? On the other hand, I do use ChatGPT for dating advice, and I don't think I'm the only one.
I think ChatGPT gets used for a lot of relational problem solving
Yeah.
and curiosity questions. When you think about the side of your life on entrepreneurship, take us through the start of Match.com, and you had an early exit from there. Like, what's been your entrepreneurial journey since that period?
Very much a lot of ups and downs, very much reflective of what was going on in Silicon Valley. So the exit of Match was in 1998, and I'm embarrassed to say that it was sold for less than $8 million. The initial investors in Match were actually investors in something called Electric Classifieds, which was a classified advertising engine that they were hoping to sell to newspapers. Match was kind of the proof of concept. It was not adequately capitalized. I had to show that every ad would pay out. And despite being number one, the board did not lean into it as this is this is what we're doing and this is what we're doing well, and sold it for way too little to fund electric classifieds. And this is before there was Craigslist or eBay. So really big lesson. From there, I went on to women.com, and that was aimed at women, a media company. It was kind of fun to switch into an advertising business model. Learned a lot. That IPO'd in late 99, not the best timing. Then I had left before the IPO. I was at bluelight.com, and I kid you not, I had $100 million marketing budget. This was in the fervor of the dot-com boom. But of course, that was very quickly turned into the dot-com bust. And that company didn't make it, neither did Kmart. And, Martha Stewart, who was Kmart's biggest brand ambassador, went to jail. Unjustifiably, I would say, but nonetheless. I found myself in early 2020 or late 2020, 21 without a job. I took a job with a nonprofit called Trustee. It was all about internet privacy and building brand trust. And I think brands is the throughput of the through line. I think brands are the through line of my experience. And I didn't expect to stay there as long as I did. I turned it from a nonprofit to a for-profit. And this is where the lesson from Match really came in. After Match was sold, I belatedly realized that I could have probably raised the money and led it to its next iteration. And about a year later, it sold for about $70 million to what would become IAC. It's not just that I only got $200,000 for helping with the sale. I missed a big opportunity. I missed a big opportunity to really grow it into what I want it to be, really fund it the right way and so on. And I think my lesson was, why didn't I get my own investment? Why didn't I, honestly, I was overworked. I had two small kids. I was really tired. I didn't have the support to take that big of a risk. I think, though, had I been a guy, somebody would have said, why don't you do it? And this is how we'll do it, and I'll help you. I think had I been more confident, I would have gone to the market and to the people I knew. I mean, I went to Stanford Business School. I knew people who would have said, yes, you can do this. That was a tough lesson, and I got the do-over. So I took Trustee, that was a nonprofit industry association, and raised $10 million from Excel in 2008 and converted it from a nonprofit to a for-profit. And this time, I got my equity in the new company, and that turned out reasonably well for me. But you don't often get a do-over, so I'm very grateful that I was able to do that.
It sounds like life has dealt some twists and turns, but you've had to pivot along the way. And I think that's a great trait of many entrepreneurs or leaders or people just as a life skill, knowing when to pivot. And it doesn't mean that it's lack of effort or this is uncomfortable, so I won't do it. There's always awareness that we need to have in terms of what's next and where the next step is directed.
I think you've got to be very forward looking. And on the other hand, experience helps a lot. So I left trustee in 2012 full time and moved from Alameda, California, across the bay to San Francisco. I bought a house in Potrero Hill. At the time, this is 2012, I didn't know Airbnb was down the street. But within 6 months, because everybody was talking about it, and I was curious, and I'm an entrepreneur, and curiosity leads to things, I started renting rooms in my house in San Francisco. And then I bought 2 properties in Santa Fe, which is my hometown and where I'm coming to you from today. And that got me thinking, what are the businesses that are going to evolve from the way people are traveling and the way people are working? All of a sudden, I'm a gig economy entrepreneur. I went from privacy to hospitality, just like that, you know. But again, as I mentioned, I think my superpower as it were is building trusted brands. I was advising women entrepreneurs at Women's Startup Lab, which is like a pre-accelerator for women entrepreneurs. And I met a gal from Santa Fe, so that's a little bit of kismet, who started a company renting baby gear to traveling families. And in her pitch, after she was done, I said, I should be your CEO. And we joined forces not that day, but a few months later, and launched the company in May of 2016. So we're coming in onto 10 years.
That's BabyQuip.
Oh yes, the company now is BabyQuip. It was called Baby. We changed the name. And within BabyQuip, we've had a lot of ups and downs. Changing the name was a big deal. That co-founder, Carrie, left in 2017. And I was joined by my son, Joe, my older son. I have 2 sons. And he's now been with the company 7 years. So I think we've worked through our issues. Uh, and we were on Shark Tank together, and that aired on March 6, 2020. So instead of everything going up, everything went down. Got through the pandemic, and now when I look at our, the chart on Stripe that shows our monthly, Stripe revenue, the pandemic's barely a blip, but my God, at that time it was such a big deal. And so now BabyQuip, we have a supplier network over 3,000, mostly moms. This year we're
And what
probably
does BabyQuip do? Just for
oh,
listeners, I'm sorry. What
yes,
does
sorry.
BabyQuip do?
BabyQuip delivers baby gear to traveling families. We're like the Vrbo or Airbnb or Turo of baby gear. So we have independent contractors who own the baby gear. They're mostly moms. They deliver it, pick it up, set it up, do the last mile logistics. They're fantastic. And our customers are mostly parents of young children, but grandparents are a big segment. And we've got some great partnerships. The biggest one, which is Vrbo, which was introduced to the market, US, in September of this year. The team's still small, about 16, 17 people maybe, and we're going to probably serve 120,000 orders this year. And we're coming to the end of the year, so I'm pretty confident.
That's a real business.
Yeah, it's a good business. Reminds me a lot of Match, but I'm much smarter now than I was, much more confident, and I've got a pretty clear vision of where I want this to go.
You mentioned that your zone of genius is creating brands. What
Trusted brands, yeah.
trusted brands? What
Well,
are
brands are trusted. If you have a brand, then it means people believe in you and what you're doing.
and what are those ingredients to a trusted brand? What are the pillars that make that stand up?
I got my postgraduate degree in marketing at the Clorox company after business school. I was there for a few years. And brands are based on trust, and that's trust that you're going to deliver what you say you're going to deliver. But I'd say that in Match, I knew that an important part of building Match was dating safety. and transparency and community. And we really invested in those things. And we did that before anybody else did. The key strategy with Match was targeting women. And I'd say targeting women is still a big part of what we do at BabyQuip. But we were the first to give dating advice in terms of, meet in a public place, those kinds of things. With BabyQuip, we're dealing with babies. People are crazy about their babies, right? Understandably. So, we really have invested into things like cleaning protocols and safety and inventory management and liability insurance and background checks for our providers. And we've been rewarded with a 94 Net Promoter Score, which is through the roof.
Fantastic.
So I think we're delivering on that. And when you have a strong brand, you're more likely not only to get customers and referrals, but you're more likely to get partners as well.
I believe that integrity is the North Star for all of us. And that shows up in brands when we
Yes.
deliver what we promise, and the delivery and follow up on promises kept is what builds trust. And I 100% support the direction of building trusted brands. But I also believe that each of us has a journey that we're on that can align with either brands or a sense of mission. We call it true wealth, discovering what's most important in life and what's fulfilling. And my last question for you is, what does true wealth mean to you? After all of your history of ventures and ups and downs, what's most meaningful to you at this stage in life?
Let me just tap back a little bit to BabyQuip. I love that families are having better vacations, but I really love that our quality providers, again, mostly moms, are learning how to be entrepreneurs themselves. And that's an important part to me because I feel female entrepreneurs really aren't getting the money, aren't getting the support that they need. I think things would have been different for me had I. So, that's where I think myself and the team gets a lot of motivation. These women share with us how they could take their own family to Disneyland or on a ski trip. And that's really kind of great. Or how the money makes a difference. For me, yeah, I mean, that it's motivating to many of my investors as well, which I'm happy to see. I think for all of us, it's not really the money. It's more about the time, the people, the impact you can have. Nearly 64 years old, and I'm still working, and I get a lot of joy for what I'm doing. But I'm getting close to the point of saying, okay, there's not that many more years I can easily get on planes and travel and do the things I want to do. And so I'm really focused. I'm heading into a transition period. So I'm focused on what are the things that really matter. And it's the people that you're around, the place that you're around, the impact you can have, and health, being able to do it as long as possible.
Those are all great definitions of true wealth. And it all comes back to connectivity, meeting with people that are valuable and impactful in life. Fran, I want to thank you for spending time in the metaphorical canoe today. Appreciate it.
I enjoyed it. Thank you for these good questions.
My pleasure. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a review. To discover what wealth means to you, please take our assessment at planningalt.com.